What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Z Money, Mr. 0-3, the captain of the round one exit, the rest of the West. It's time for the playoffs. Zachetology is back. It's the best time of year. 16 nerds are about to enter a tournament, and come Monday morning, I think, only 8 will leave. Or 8 will stay on. However you want to do that math. And as always, we're going to have some bangers. It's going to be a fantastic time. So let's get into it. Let's do a quick recap of the year and what's been going down in the RBSL. So obviously, the RBSL for the last 5 years has been about how the West is a total dogfight to the death. Unbelievable teams, lots of unbelievable teams, and the East is trash. That theme still holds true on the whole for this season, but we're beginning to see parity return to the world of the RBSL, which is great to see. The West still has 5, count that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 60-win teams in the playoffs, which is absolutely ludicrous. However, I think a lot of those teams are aging and are almost certainly on the decline. At the very best, I think they stay as good as they are. And on the East, we're starting to see the come up of a couple different teams. We had 0 losing teams make the playoffs in the East. That's a big achievement. If you're an East GM, pat yourself on the back. Doing great work. We have 8 winning teams in the East. That's super cool to see. And we have a couple legitimate championship contenders. I know the East is, well, they didn't win last season, but they won a lot of the championships. However, I think they haven't been really putting out championship quality teams, not named the Boston Celtics. This season, I think there are 1.5 championship quality teams. We'll get into it with the special breakdowns. So yeah, I think overall the league is in a great place. We're trending towards an even better spot. The steroid era is ending. All of those classic steroid era players that we've become familiar with, Cameron Turner, Damon Vogler, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry if I missed your steroid era player, but don't worry, they're cheat code too. They're all somewhere between 30 and 32, if not even a little older. Brian Arroyo's 34. So the steroid era is ending. This is going to be one of the last bastions of the steroid era, and we're actually going to get some super interesting matchups of steroid era dying teams. I wouldn't say dying, but steroid era teams versus the new up and coming era. What are we going to name this era? The trash doc draft era. But it'll be cool to see how the youngsters play against kind of these known commodities. So anyways, let's talk about the matchup. So quick rundown in the West. The 1-seeded Grizzlies versus the 8-seeded Rockets, Rocket Bear. Then we'll have the 4-seeded Thunder against the 5-seeded Jazz. I think the Thunder, they had the same record, so the tiebreak panned out with the seed. So the Thunder will have home court there. We have the 3-seeded Sonics and the 6-seeded Clippers, a lovely Pacific showdown. The 2-seeded Nuggets against the number 7-seeded Mavericks. And then out east, we'll have the Pistons versus the Celtics, the Sixers versus the Raptors, the Hornets versus the Cavs, which is a flipped 4-5, and the Nets versus the Bucks. So as per usual, because I love talking about my West last, we will start with the East. And so I did just say that the East is better than before, but we're still not quite at the point where we have legitimate matchups the whole way through. I mean, we don't even in the West. So the Nets versus the Bucks. Look, I think the Nets are going to smack the Bucks. The Nets are a fantastic team. I don't know if I love them as a championship squad. I'm kind of not yet sold on Olin Harris and Dimitri Smith as far as championship quality players. Not that they'll never get there just now, but you don't need to be a championship squad to beat the Bucks. I do want to say the Bucks finished 42-40, half a point margin, plus minus 0.5 plus minus, however you want to say it. So they were basically a dead neutral team. I think the Bucks could have been a 50-win team. It's really hard to say whether Noel even set his lineups even once. But there are 3 number 1 picks on this squad that are good number 1 picks, that none of them have died. They're all playing extremely well. I don't think they're being utilized to their fullest, but West Eastwood is a fantastic center. Tall, athletic, plays good D. He's not fully filled out. He's not at the point where he's getting 10 boards a game yet. But he's a beast. Chance Roman, fantastic swingman, pure, unbridled athleticism. He still has yet to fill into his ratings to make him a quality defender. He looks like he could maybe be a point guard one day. We'll see. The Bucks have decisions more long term they got to make for their roster. Uh, and they need to consolidate. But Chance Roman is great at any position right now. He's scoring unbelievably efficiently because he's an athletic god. And then there's Francois Santoro, who is like your classic 3-and-D shooting guard. And he is far from like ready to go. He's got a ton of growth, but he's still scoring at a 57% true shooting clip, 20 points a game, while being a B+A defender with great size and athleticism. So all of those players are great. I think like the Bucks, if Noel pays attention and actually sets a lineup, could surprise people and win a couple games. They don't match up terribly against the Nets, excuse me. But the big matchup for the Bucks, if the Bucks were going to pull up an upset or at least win a couple games, is that West Eastwood at center matchup. The Nets' weakness is at big man. They have Agustin Coelho, who's an aging shell of himself. He's only a B post defender at this point. He is a good rebounder, but he's both a B post defender and he is not athletic at all at this point. He does have the A strength, but the D quickness, the C- jump, and at only 7 feet, as insane to say, is not that tall anymore in this league. West Eastwood could feast. Like, he could legitimately be a series-altering player. I do think that, like, the Nets with Cade, Demetri Smith, Olin Harris, Justin Watchman probably have the net better team by a country mile at every other position, even though I did just list some very good players for the Bucks. So I expect this to be a 4-1, but I do think there's a world where, like, the Bucks do a little better than expected. Granted, I don't think they'll win. And I think the Bucks, like I mentioned, 3 number 1 picks. This is a team to watch out for. This feels a lot like the Nets from a couple seasons ago before they made all their trades, we'll see how you perform in the playoffs. I'm not the biggest fan of how you kind of broke down your team, like trading off Gasper Penn and getting Cade. I don't know. If you win a ring here, it'll all be worth it, of course. But I think slow playing it a little longer might have been better. I know you wanted to dodge the TC stuff. But yeah, I think the Nets win this one pretty cleanly. Although I think Noel is he's a little short of being spooky, but he's a little spooky. All right, next we got the Hornets versus Cavs. I think this, at least for the East, is my favorite matchup. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. So the Cavs have 53 wins over the 52 wins of the Hornets. So the Cavs will have home court here. Both these teams, the Cavs looked really good. The Cavs look great. Finished with a 9 differential. It is in the East, so it's like a bit of fake, but like there are other teams, the Bucks and the Pistons in this division. They still have this great win differential, even though the Pistons snuck out the division crown on them. Meanwhile, the Hornets. So this is obviously Max he did kind of sell out to put this team together. And I don't love this team. They won 52 games, which isn't terrible. They have a plus-minus of 5.5. In the weakest division in all of the RBSL. So I think it's safe to say statistically, I don't love this team. What's super interesting about this matchup is these teams are somewhat mirror images of each other. There's some quality big men defense on both squads. The Hornets have Sylvain Delbecq, and then they have Dean Stevens and Jesus Dietz. Jesus Dietz actually very old, putting up a rock solid season so far. In the Cavs, they have Efren Strong and Ted Lasso. I'm very interested to see how Ted Lasso performs in the playoffs. He's obviously had some fantastic regular season stats, but he's a little small. How will he do against playoff size? He's probably getting a matchup against Sylvain Delbecq. But the thing to talk about here is Maximo Brasido and Rolfus Barlayer, 2 of the best oversized shooting guards. Maybe they're small forwards. Maybe they're even point guards. I think the question is like, if you're Jesse or if you're Max, do you want to get them both matched up on each other? I think the default for both these teams is to have them both at shooting guard and they get matched up against each other. Barlayer is the better scorer. He shoots the 3-ball well. Brasidio is better at basically everything else. He's the slightly better defender. He's the better rebounder, if I'm not mistaken. And he can kind of pass. But I think if they're matched up against each other, I like Brasido more. He's the better defender. He has the ever so slightly better athletic profile, in my opinion. So I think that will let him take advantage. But I think if you look at the teams as a whole, if you're Max, I think you may want to try and get Rolfus off of Brasido because he's such a good defender and try and get Rolfus against some worse defender on the Cavs. Now, the question is, who is that worst defender? Do you move Rolfus to point guard? Does that mess up your team? Because if you do that, then you might be able to get him matched up against a Malcolm Benson or a Douglas Campbell, who are these guys who, like, yeah, they're reasonably well sized and have okay defensive ratings, but they're not like AA defenders who are 6'7" like Brasido? Or do you move Rolfus to the small forward spot and get him matched up against someone like a Tom Lewis, who, while hyper athletic, has very little perimeter defense to offer? If I'm Max looking at his team, I think the thing to do is to move Rolfus to point guard. You really don't have anything to lose. Move Thomas Beal to shooting guard, or I think he's already playing shooting guard, and see what happens. Get the ball in your best player's hands. You need to ride him as far as he can take you. I do think the Cavs are a better team. Net hole. Guys like Efren Strong, I think, is a better defender than the three I listed for Max, although Sylvain Delbecq is also very good. I think Ted Lasso is a better power forward or second big man option as opposed to Jesus Dietz and Dean Stevens. And like I mentioned, I think in a playoff format, it's really hard to say, but I think I like Brasido. This is going to be a really close series. I think forgetting the players and the specific matchups, Max definitely has more playoff clout. Although I've always said I think Max is a fantastic GM, legendary GM, best GM ever maybe. But he's never been a great coach. The way Max beats you is by creating a more talented team, not by figuring out the big money matchup in the playoff series. Still, Jesse has a terrible track record in the playoffs. So I can't believe I'm saying this. I think the Cavs are going to win this. I think this will be a banger. I'm thinking 4-3. I tried to tell Max in the preseason, I didn't love his squad. I think he sold out a little early. This will be a great measuring stick. Look, if you can't beat the Cavs, and I don't mean this as disrespect to Jesse too much, only minor. If you can't beat the Cavs, how are you going to beat the Nets, the Sixers, or a team in the West? So this will be a great measuring stick to see how Max did on his first build back. Love that we have him. Love that he sold out to give us another winning team in the East. I do think he will come up short. Yeah, we will see. All right, next we got the Pistons and the Celtics. This is a fun one because I think the Pistons are my favorite squad in the playoffs, maybe in the RBSL, just because of the way it's constructed. Excuse me. It's a bunch of kind of like cobbled together pieces that have fit super well. It's kind of a mix of the classic hyper athleticism of Kyle teams that we know, especially up front, like Derek Justice, King Chala, who still somehow has a jump at 34. Like, what steroids is this boy on? And then more of like 3-and-D-ish with Ricky Trapp, Mac Pappas. It's just like a fun team. A lot of guys who are kind of thrown by the wayside, cobbled together, doing super well. Derek Justice has come out of nowhere to be like an elite scorer. So yeah, the Pistons have been super cool, fun offense. However, I do have concerns about them in the playoffs. They have a couple they have one notable guy who I don't like in the playoffs at all, which is Ricky Trapp. Ricky Trapp is getting old. He's undersized. He's only a B+ perimeter defender. So I worry about how he'll scale, especially when he's kind of like a critical contributor to your team. He's not like the leading scorer anymore, but he is important. So that's the big question. Okay, now the Celtics. The Celtics are a weird one. They finished with a margin plus minus of 0.4, but they won 45 games. The Celtics are another team like the Bucks I said earlier that I think are better than their plus minus. There's a lot of players I love here. Gaspar Penn, Granville De Los Santos, and Joseph Valdez are all just, no matter how you slice it, they're just good players. They're not fully filled out. Like Gaspar Penn has the makings of an elite defensive big man. He needs a couple years. Granville De Los Santos has the makings of an elite scoring big, but he still probably needs a year or two. And then Joey Valdez is actually basically filled out. He's just a very good, high-quality 3-and-D guy. Those three players I may like more than maybe anybody on the Pistons. However, the rest of this Celtics team is pretty sketch. It's a lot of prospects. It's like, is Tyreek Stein about to be the starting point guard for the Celtics? A man whose best defensive rating is a C+, not to mention being 6'2" with pretty bad athleticism. So it's holes like Tyreek Stein that make me like realize why the Celtics only had a margin of a half a point. That being said, Gasper is a known playoff wizard. Maybe, I don't know about wizard, that might be going too far, but he's good in the playoffs. And the Pistons goal should be to just assault the inside ruthlessly. Get the ball to guys like, get it to Arlen Mitchell, get it to Derek Justice, and just hope that they go inside and dunk it. Get it to Roman Hrybov, all these dudes who are just like these super A athletes. Shit, even Happy Gilmore at point guard loves to go inside. Get that boy the ball, run it inside, attack the weaker defense of the Celtics. Like, put Gasper Penn to the test. Is he ready or is he not ready? Let's find out. I do think the Pistons will win this because of the depth and the lack of bench on the Celtics, but I think this one will be surprising. I'm going to give the Celtics 3 games. I think that might be too many. The stats say with an 8-point differential that this is well out of reach. But I think we're going to get a saucy one. I just realized I skipped over the 76ers and the Raptors. My bad for breaking the order, but now we will cover them. Okay, the Sixers, the Mobley squad, Jack's Mobley squad. The Sixers look fantastic. The big difference from the Mobley squad of last year is that Moses Moody, although I don't think he's a top 10 player that Doc may have you think, is a fantastic player. He's very good. He's like a nice top 25 guy, 3-and-D, does it well. Evander Corbin is a quality big man. I don't think he's amazing. He's certainly not worth the $24 million that he's getting paid. But he does round out this squad well. Mark Lilly, rock solid point guard. He's a little old. His defense isn't what it was. And Ciro Kohuango, who I really love for a Mobley type squad as like a defensive specialist who can match up 1 through 3, do it all well. I think it's kind of outside these playoff matchups. The fact that Jack's trading Ciro, huge mistake. Ciro is way too good. Great get by Edwin. But obviously, this team lives and dies with Mobley. And when you live and die by Mobley, that usually means you live by Mobley. Mobley has just continued to be unstoppable in all aspects of the game. Did he drop off a little statistically from last season? Yes, but that just means he went from being the greatest player of all time to just the MVP. He's amazing. Now, against the Raptors, is it going to get extra juicy because the Raptors have terrible inside defense? The Raptors starting big man is Sestislev Inast. Incest, I believe, is the nickname we're going with. He's terrible. Yes, he has a postie. Yes, he has a block and is getting 4.2 blocks a game. He has F- quickness and F- strength. That's just not going to cut it against Mobley. In addition, Incest is a massive ball hog who's chucking and only scoring a 50% true shooting. So, I mean, like, that alone right there is just going to ruin the Raptors. The Raptors are just like, it's a classic Marco squad. It's stuck between a bunch of different shit. They can't decide what they want. They're like, this is the last good year we're probably getting of Adam Hilton. He has regressed a little bit, but like he's still insanely good. He's going to need to get paid like $35 million next season to keep him. He's going to be 32. It's not great. They're like these quality middle guys like Roberto Zubero and Fausto Canepa that won't like carry your team, but they're good to have as like your fourth starter. And then Devon Santiago, who's like, I can't decide if he's going to be good. We need a couple more years to see. Can we get the ball in his hands more? Can he get more rebounds? Is he a quality defender? The fact that Incest is just like a starting player on this team. Honestly, I think if the Raptors just bench Incest and like start fucking Lee Parker or Philip Petrusev is bad too. I don't know. Like pick up a big man off the waiver wire or from free agency. Literally might go better than Incest. But, you know, Marco might not even set a lineup for this. This is going to be a beatdown. Mobley's going to go ham. I think this is a 4-0. The real, you know, in the East, although there will be some interesting round 2 matchups because I think like the Pistons, the Cavs, the Hornets, they at least in our minds can be, we're going to keep the Raptors at a 0. Those second tier teams, the Pistons, the Cavs, the Hornets, they can theoretically fight with the Nets and the Sixers. I really think we're just waiting for the Nets-Sixers matchup, which, spoiler alert, I like the Sixers. But we'll talk about that one later when we get to that point, and if I'm actually up for making midweek Zachetologies. So that's how I see the East going. Again, the East is on a track straight for Nets-Sixers. That will be fun. Now let's talk about the West. Like I mentioned earlier, 5 60-win teams in the West. Numbers are complicated. But one of those 60-win teams is the Nuggets, and they will be playing the upstart Mavericks. This is one of those cross-era matchups that I think is super interesting. Look, the Nuggets are fantastic. Vogler Cameron Turner and Paulo are obviously like the star trio, but Evan has filled out super well. The bench guys, he got a lot of great hits. Makoto Nagana and Rayford Fox have been like very, very good for this team, as kind of like switchable 2 through 4 defenders, which has really brought this team up a level. Because actually, I don't know if I love Paulo Preciso or Cam Turner. They're both fine. I love Vogler. Vogler has his known playoff struggles, but Vogler is still a beast. He's only 31. He's scoring unbelievable. He's playing unbelievable defense. I think he's the best player on this team. Cameron Turner has died a little bit. I think there was a moment where we were thinking that the Cam Turner era was over. I think what is over in the Cam Turner era is point guard Cam Turner. I think those days are done. I think you have to be playing Cam Turner at power forward now. The quickness and the jump just aren't what they were anymore. The quickness is sitting at B- right now. The jump has been an A-, B+. I think his efficiency is like below 55% at point guard. He can still be a quality power forward. And a quality power forward he is. He doesn't play the best defense. He's a little short, but he has enough good game to be like a high-quality star player. So I think in this matchup, what's interesting is like the Mavericks have a rock-solid squad. Carmichael Brown, this is kind of Carmichael Brown's, well, he was pretty good last season as well, but his first season as like the true lead star. The question is whether Brown has another year of growth in him to be like even better. Right now he looks very good. 20 points a game, 60% true shooting, 1 steal and 3.3 blocks is insane. Playing good defense, getting 8 boards a game. Those are all great stats. How will he match up against Damon Vogler? The thing about Vogler is notorious for melting against great posty. Why? Because Vogler is actually kind of like a jump shooter, a secret jump shooter. And so if you can make him take a lot of jump shots and not as many inside shots, his efficiency will drop. So it'll be interesting to see how that matchup plays up. The question for the Mavs is, what do you do with Cristiano Maras? Maras has been playing power forward all season. I'm a known Maras hater. He doesn't really play defense. He scores at a clip that's like, is it good enough to actually be a plus for your squad? It's really hard to say. He scored 58% this season, 58.3% true shooting this season, 25 points a game. Like, to me, like, let me be clear. 58% is good, but when you have guys like Carmichael Brown and Rick Bong scoring more while also playing defense, it's like, do I want Cristiano playing as a starter and taking the ball away from those two? I don't really know. So what's tricky is the Nuggets have good defenders basically the whole way. It's actually arguable that Cam Turner is their worst defender. So maybe having Maras at power forward is the way to go. The downside of that is that Cam Turner will score on Maras equally because Maras is a terrible defender. There is an insane mad scientist side to me that's like, you should bench Cristiano Maras and pick your next best defender and put him at power forward, like put Michael Fitzgerald at power forward. Try and get Maras minutes against either tired players or the non-existent bench of the Nuggets, like Kristaps Scott or Brad Faircloth, who are not fantastic. The flip side to that is that like a very legitimate playoff strategy is to run all your players 48 minutes and put your pace at 0, which for the Nuggets, like I get there's injury scariness, but like is a very legitimate strategy when your depth is this bad. Like run Vogler 48, run Cam Turner 48, fucking crush teams that don't like, that can't keep up with your star players. So for the Mavs, like going high pace, putting Maras on the bench, getting the ball in your best player's hands might be the way to go. I still think the Mavs are going to lose this. I think like there's just Damon Vogler is a little too good. And the Nuggets don't have, or excuse me, the Mavericks don't have like great players to punish the weakness of the Nuggets, which is like a fantastic shooting guard, small forward that can stroke it from 3. Rick Bong is kind of that player at point guard, but he doesn't quite have the volume. Like I'm talking more about like a Jalen Suggs who can really just like wax Paulo Preciso, who's only a B defender. I think the Nuggets are better than their record indicates. I think they could get 2 games on the Nuggets and make this a little saucy. I do think the Nuggets take this one home. Just pure star power. So Nuggets move on. But I'm excited for the Mavs. The Mavs are one of the like best forward-looking teams. Quick note about the Nuggets. Like, this is the season. Like, the Nuggets will keep everybody together. I think the drafts are bad. It's worth, like, keeping the Nuggets together. But, like, it's hard to imagine them fielding a better squad. Everybody's going to free agency. You're going to have to pay Paolo more money. Cameron Turner is really getting old. He seems to be aging. Notably, Damon Vogler is going to be 32. He's going to cost $37 million. It's hard to imagine this not being the season for the Nuggets. So, big time for Evan to show up. This is probably his best shot at a ring as he's ever had. All right, next. The Sonics versus the Clippers, the Pacific Showdown. Super psyched about this one. It's great to have two good teams in the Pacific. Last season, the Clippers were obviously like the better team. Sonics back atop the Pacific as per usual, winning 61 games. Fun note about the Sonics, just because I make Zachetology, so I get to talk about myself, and you're going to like it. The Sonics were 20-14, 34 games through the season, finished the season 41-7. Insane. That's like the Nets winning clip. The Clippers are an interesting team, really well put together. Every player fills their role. They play very good defense, and offensively they have a lot of good scorers, but they don't handle the ball well. So like the Clippers offense in terms of efficiency is about average. When you go look at individual players, you go like, oh, Jamie Jones, 56% true shooting. Jerry Wilson, 56% true shooting. Roman Balakeliev, 59% true shooting. Scotty Barnes, 60% true shooting. Owen Lamb, 62% true shooting. 64%, excuse me. So like those numbers are all great. So they're great shooters. They turn the ball over a lot. Meanwhile, for the Sonics have like a borderline generational defense. They are the best defense in the league by 1.5 points. Second best defense in like 10 years, based on my super quick search. There was a Rockets team last season that could not play any offense at all, but had a crazy good defense that they're worse than. But the big difference about the Sonics this season is, yes, the Sonics have always had the great defense, and I think Sonics ball has been panned in the sense of like, great defense is great, but like eventually you're going to face some players that are just unstoppable and you won't be able to score the ball. Well, the big thing that's changed with the Sonics is their scoring is a little more balanced. It used to be the Sonics were strictly inside and jump shots. The Sonics, with the growth of Michael Branch and the addition of Cletus Malay, are now actually shooting the three ball. Both of those guys are taking over like 5 or 6 threes a game and scoring them at a reasonable clip, which is super important to balance the team out. Like this, the engine of the Sonics is Todd Burnside. Todd Burnside, like, is clearly a top 5 big man in the game, borderline unstoppable, unbelievable defender. The only reason Todd Burnside isn't like absolutely waxing everybody, or his stats don't pop out, is that he can't make his free throws. In terms of his field goal percentage, he's just unbelievable. He's just dunking on everybody. He's a beast. He's, A strength, A jump, 7'4", B inside. It's not hard to see why Todd Burnside is so good. He's the clear best player in this series. The big question is like, I don't like the Clippers as a team that scales into the playoffs. The Clippers have a lot of players that fill their role super well. Like Owen Lamb Jr. is a great, although I think Owen Lamb Jr. really is a great power forward. He's a great defensive anchor big man. Scotty Barnes is like a really nice scoring boost, like go inside, Gel Atoja style, small forward, power forward. Roman Balakeliev, rock solid 3-and-D shooting guard. Jerry Wilson and Jamie Jones both like fit the classic point guard mold to a T. The problem is that all of their players are like regular players and not steroid players. Their size is a little small. Their athleticism on the whole is only okay. Meanwhile, the Sonics have like steroid players. The Sonics point guard is 6'5". The Sonics center is, well, it depends on who plays center, but it's going to be 2 7-footers for the Sonics in some order between Jules Jimenez and Todd Burnside. The tallest player for the Clippers that they really play is 6'10". George Bradley, their small forward, is 6'8". Their backup shooting guard is 6'10". The Sonics have giant athletes, and like I mentioned, they're scoring at all levels. So that will scale really well as we get into the playoffs, where it's going to be a lot of hyper-athletic, monstrous players. Meanwhile, for the Clippers, it's just tough to imagine, like, let's just take the point guard, Jerry Wilson and Jamie Jones. It's tough to imagine those guys cooking Cletus Millay. Cletus, he's taller, he's just as athletic, and he's the better defender. So I think the Clippers are a fun team. I don't think they're going to scale super well. Statistically, these teams are pretty close. The Sonics are better by a real margin. The Sonics look better. They won more games. Their margins are all better. Ampy likes, everybody likes them. But this should be within the realm of winning just purely statistically. But I actually think the Clippers are a bit of pretenders. I just think the Sonics D is going to shut this team down. It's hard. Scotty Barnes, I don't see how Scotty Barnes is going to get anything done with his athleticism. He's going to get put up against some giant post beast. I could see Owen Lamb doing solid. Owen Lamb versus Todd Burnside, I already said it, will be cool. But at the end of the day, in the previous matchups of this series in the regular season, Todd Burnside has eaten. The series were super close and went 2-2. But if Todd Burnside starts getting the ball more, I don't know what the Clippers are going to do. How do you stop Todd Burnside? You don't have the right player. So I think the Sonics will take this one 4-2, but this will be a spicy one. Outside of the matchups, the Sonics are really on the ropes here. If to preserve any clout for myself, got to be a win here. The Sonics have been universally panned for their playoff performances in this new churn era of the Sonics where they're just always making the playoffs. The Vogler era didn't go well. I see this as the beginning of the peak of the Burnside era. So, this was a peak year. So, peak years, you got to be winning playoff series. I would love to be a contender and not a pretender. And the first step to that is just cleaning up the Clippers, moving on to the next series. All right, the 4-5, the Thunder Jazz. This series is absolutely fantastic. The Thunder and the Jazz both won 60 games. Their net margins are both 12, or they're 12 and 13. It's insane. The fact that this is a round one matchup, absolutely unbelievable. This is the quality of teams that should be facing in the finals, not in round one. It's that crazy. So the Thunder, oh crap, I did the thing. All right, I'll re-add all the numbers at the end. I clicked on the wrong window. I was feeling myself, but you know who I picked for all the below series. All right, the Thunder. The Thunder have two fantastic big men, Clint Cochran, Isaiah Todd, and role players everywhere else. Chang Han, Nacho Lara, Constantinople Ozymandias, and David Adams. Okay, guys, the Thunder run through their big men. Clint Cochran has been absolutely fantastic. Everything is advertised. He's in his prime. Great scorer, great defender, unbelievably tall. And then Isaiah Todd is kind of still extremely good. He's scoring he scored 66% true shooting, 24 points a game. He gets boards. He plays solid D. He's not a great defender, but he plays solid D. On the flip side, the Jazz are the same Jazz that we've always seen. The 3-point meme shooting of Arden Justice and David Del Valle. The inside defense anchored by Tony Pruitt. And then Roger Bechtel kind of playing the microwave scorer at a variety of positions. We've seen Bechtel everywhere from power forward to point guard. The thing about the Jazz, look, the Jazz just finished with a plus minus of 13 or something. Okay, the Jazz had a plus minus of 12. The Thunder had a plus minus of 13. But the Jazz are worse than they've ever been in their aging. Tony Pruitt is not the same Tony Pruitt. Yes, his ratings are still A's across the board in all the key big man stats. He's extremely unathletic at this point. David Del Valle is legitimately dying. He was under 60% true shooting this year. He's super unathletic. He's 6'1". All he does is get steals at this point. Arden Justice is still Arden Justice as advertised, scoring at an unbelievable clip. But the rest of this team, it doesn't feel as good as before. It's still, I want to be clear, it's still great, but this is I see cracks in the Jazz. To me, the biggest crack in this matchup is just no one can defend either Isaiah Todd or Clint Cochran. Your best defender, I don't know. Tony Pruitt's tiny. He's 6'10", and he's not athletic. Clint Cochran's 7'6", better athlete than Tony Pruitt. I think this will be an inside assault by the Thunder that the Jazz won't be able to stop. It's that simple. Maybe you can stop Isaiah Todd, but there's no one for Clint Cochran. On the Jazz side of things, the question is just can you get points out of Del Valle efficiently, and will Arden Justice do the meme dream? Arden Justice, he's going to get the time, he's going to get the minutes, he's going to get the opportunities. I do think like my belief for how 3-point shooting or how you defend against the three ball is that the best way to defend against the three ball is not necessarily with like a perimeter defense, but is with size and athleticism. So in that sense, I actually like Chang Han a lot as a defender on Art and Justice. He's just as tall. He's taller actually. He's got a similar athletic profile. He's quick. If I'm the Jazz, I might consider moving Art and Justice to point guard and benching Del Val because he's been so bad. Get Del Val fewer bench minutes where he can be more efficient. Try and dodge Chang Han. Get him matched up against a David Adams, who's like super short. Even though he's a good defender, he's 6'2". So that's probably where I go if I'm the Jazz. But still, like the Jazz can always win because when you have a guy who can score 40 from three, you always have a shot. But the Thunder have home court. They have the way more consistent, beneficial matchup here. I think I'm picking the Thunder all day in this one. Still, two elite teams. This will be exciting. This is a big moment for Cody to like Cody and me. I feel like I know Cody went to the finals, so I'm going to get roasted for saying this, but I feel like Cody and I have been on a very similar track. We've been putting together very, very good teams, but it's just like the top three in the West have been so ludicrously good in the Grizz, the Jazz, and the Nuggets that it's just like we haven't broken through. But I think this could be the season where we start to break through. I think the odds have been evened a little bit. So excited for Cody to potentially knock off one of the older mainstays of the West so we can get some new blood in there. All right, final matchup, Rocket Bear, Grizz Rockets. You know, the Grizz are a weird team. They won 66 games, but I'm not entirely sure how they did it. Like, Barrett Din is a fantastic big man. I don't know if I would say fantastic. Barrett Din is a rock-solid big man. Like, outside that, I don't know. Randall English is also a solid big man. These guys aren't, like, awe-inspiring compared to the big man of the West. So, like, is it really just Jalen Suggs carrying this hard? Even Arroyo's legitimately a trash defender at this point. He does score well, but not that well. So is it really just like this okay interior defense and Jalen Suggs carrying the team? I mean, it must be. The stat, like 66 wins. So I don't know. The Grizz feel a little bit like pretenders in the postseason. Pretenders is too strong a word. I'm worried for the Grizz against the other elite teams. Like, shit, even the Grizz against the Sonics, I'm worried for the Grizz. Realistically, the Grizz are going to get the Thunder, the Jazz. I'm worried for the Grizz. All that being said, the Rockets suck. So Rocket Bear is a storied past. This matchup I do not think will go into the annals of history. Look, there's a couple individual good players on the Rockets I like. Really, there's two of them. There's Claudio Villanueva, who I think is one of the fantastic young big men, post defenders. He's just like got A's all across the board. He's a solid athlete. He's never seen a foul in his life, so you got to love that. And then Przak Kieva, fantastic perimeter defender. I think I worry Brian is going to try and build his team around Przak and get the guy the ball a million times. I don't think his offensive numbers are sustainable. I do not think he's scoring 58% true shooting ever again. But he's an elite perimeter defender. The problem is the offense for the Rockets is just, it's trash offense. It's Marcus Bravo, who is like a very Atoji style meme scorer. Like, the minute you put an elite post defense against him, I think he's going to melt. And then Emilio Zili, notorious chucker, also melts in the playoffs. So, like, and he's already old. Like, he didn't even have a good season. He scored 54% true shooting. He's just, like, full chuck mode. So, for the Rockets, like, I just don't see the path to victory at all. Simply put, I don't even think Bryant considers this really a year of trying. This is some weird in-betweener year. So I think the Grizzlies will wax the Rockets. They're the one kind of like interesting piece here is like, okay, you want to get Kieva on Jalen Suggs. So if you do get that matchup, yeah, well, I'll give the Rockets 1. No, we're giving the Rockets 0. If you get Kieva on Suggs, maybe you can like shut down Suggs. But even then, I just hate the Rockets team. Like, they're worse across the board. Yeah, sorry, Bryant. I don't love this squad. Better luck next year. I don't know what he's going to do. We'll see. So all that being said, I think we're not going to see any upsets. I'm expecting things to break basically down the line. Or, well, the Cavs are a 5 seed. I think they're going to win. However, they have more wins, so I don't really consider that an upset. So I think things will break down the line, but I do think we're gonna get to see some really interesting matchups. These should be bangers. Yeah. So let's see how it goes. Playoffs round one, gonna be some good stuff. One final thing, I tried out a new mic setup today. Let me know how you feel about this audio quality. Uh, Hopefully this is better. I always feel like I'm doing well. I always felt like my old mic was shit, so maybe this is a little more tolerable. But anyways, enjoy the playoffs. Go Sonics and Toodles.